Welcome to Pure Yoga. We're going to be starting on our knees today, so just bringing yourself into a kneeling position. You can be facing your short edge of the mat. Place the hands on top of the thighs, take a close of the eyes. Take a roll of the shoulders up towards the ears, relax them back down towards the hips. Take a nice long deep breath in, fill those bodies with air, those lungs filling up as you inhale. And as you exhale, using everything to contract to push that air back out of those lungs. Take a scan of the body from the head down to the fingers, down to the toes. Just have a quick check-in with how your body feels as you've arrived on the mat. Noticing your tight spots, any injuries that you may be looking after. Be mindful of those as you move. When you've taken that scan of the body, bring the focus to the breath. We're going to start with doing a little bit of alternate nostril breathing as we're sat here. So bringing your right hand up towards the face, bring your thumb onto the right nostril, index finger and middle finger centre of the forehead, and the last two fingers by the side of the left. Close the right nostril off, breathe in and out through the left side. Long breaths in, long breaths out, just using that left nostril. Staying tall through the spine, up through the crown of the head with length. And feel the rooting through those shins as you breathe back out. When you next get to the top of the inhale on the left side, close the left off, release the thumb from the right nostril and breathe in and out through that right side. When you get to the top of the in-breath on the right, close the right off, breathe out through the left. When you get to the top of the in-breath on the left, close the left off, breathe out through the right. Do that a couple of more times, both sides, changing at the top of the inhale, breathing back out, breathing back in and changing again at the top of the inhale, closing the opposite nostril off and breathing back out. Just clearing our pathways in between all those 7 chakras. Clearing the mind, ready for practice. When you next get to the bottom of your exhale out of the left nostril, bring that hand back to the thigh. Take a roll of the shoulders up towards the ears, relax them back down towards the hips. Then bringing yourself, if you're not already, turning towards your short edge of the mat, bringing knees underneath the hips, heel of the hands on underneath the shoulders. Couple of rounds of cat-cow. Breath in, lifts the head, lifts the bum, drops the belly. Breath out, we fold back in, chin to chest, tailbone tucks. Move in and out of these 2 places, extending the front of the body, inhale, extending the back body on the exhale. Feeling that spine moving nice and fluid, in and out of flexion and extension. And the next time you come back to a tabletop position, hold your tabletop space. Reach your right hand forward, your left toes to the back of the mat. Squeeze the left bum cheek without arching the lower spine to lift that left leg. On an out breath, bring elbow to knee, squeeze. On an in breath, lengthen it back out. 2 more, elbow to knee, squeeze. And lengthen back out. Last one. And find that length again, hold that length, right arm by the side by the ear, left heel in line with left hip. Then bring the right hand down, left knee down. Weight stays into your right hand as your left hand reaches forward. Right toes go back, squeeze the right bum cheek to raise the right leg up. And then on an out breath, bring elbow to knee, squeeze. On an in breath, lengthen it back out. Elbow to knee, squeeze. In breath, lengthen it back out. Push that foot onto the imaginary back wall. Out breath, elbow to knee. In breath, lengthen it back out. This time, hold that long line. Then bring your left hand down, your right knee down. Step your left foot back to plank, your right foot back to plank. Hold plank for a couple of breaths. Push firm into the hands, chest space in between the shoulder blades. Then start to lift up the hips. As you paddle the feet, finding our first downward facing dog, having a nod, having a shake of the head. Then if you're happy then to bring the heels to a still position, encouraging them back. If the hamstrings are still tight, a little micro bend in the knees. Push the chest back towards the thighs, let the head hang heavy. Take a long breath in here and a long breath out. Take your choice of vinyasa, coming forward to plank on the inhale. Choice to drop knees, straight bodies to the mat or to a hovering space. Then lift up the chest, then tuck the toes, squeeze the shoulder blades together. And then take it back to down dog, either chest to thighs or rolling straight over the toes, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Take a long breath in, long breath out. Come down onto the knees, seat to the feet, toes and tucked. Shoulders stack over the hips, turn the palms forward. On an in-breath, raise the hands up to the ceiling, palms together at the top. Out breath, bring the hands back by the sides of the body. Right hand stays down, left hand lifts, lean up and over to right. Come back to centre, left hand drops, right hand lifts, lean up and over to the left. Right hand drops, neutral space. On a breath in, push into the shins, raise the hips, hands together at the top. Out breath, reach forward with the hands, back with the hips. Scoop the body through, keeping the hips high. Then when the hips drop, lift the chest. Release the chest back down towards the mat. The toes are tucked. The chest comes back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze the heels back. Your weight stays in your left foot as your right leg lifts. On an out breath, bring knee to chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. In breath, raise that leg back up. And again, knee to chest, shoulders over heel of the hands. In breath, lift that leg back up. One more time, knee to chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. In breath, raise that right leg back up. Bend the right knee and stack up with the hips. Then realign the hips, bring that right knee to the heel of the right hand and plant the shin on the floor. Untuck the back toes, send those toes back. Take a hold of your right foot, bring it underneath the body, plant the hand back towards the mat, rock the left hip in and out towards that right sole foot. And then hold that left hip towards that heel. Bring yourself down onto forearms or bring your hands to stack, forehead on top, or reach the hands forward towards the front of the mat and settle that chest over that right shin. Wherever feels most comfortable for you for this position for a couple of breaths. Breathing into the outside of that right hip, maybe where you're holding some tension, and try and squeeze the left bum cheek to push that left hip a little closer towards that right heel. Taking another couple of breaths here. Then coming back up onto the hands if you're not already there. When your hands are planted, tuck your back toes under, lift the back knee, step your right foot back to meet the left foot, and lift the hips and squeeze the heels back. Let's take a vinyasa of your choice, coming forward to plank on the inhale, lowering straight bodies, drop knees or a hover. Lift up with the chest and then take yourself back to down dog, chest back to thighs, rolling over the toes, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Coming down onto the knees and tucking the toes, bringing the seat towards the feet, shoulders to stack over those hips. Breath in, raise the hands up. Breath out, bring your right hand down and lean over to the right with the left hand. Breath in, back to centre. Breath out, left hand down, lean over to the left with the right hand. Back to centre. Release the hands down by the sides of the body, palms facing forward. On an in-breath, push into the shins, raise the hands up. On an out-breath, reach forward with the hands, back with the hips. Scoop the belly through, keep the hips high. And then when the hips drop, lift up the chest. Release the chest back down. Toes tuck. Chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze the heels back. Gazing back towards the toes, the knees or the hips for a breath. Then your weight stays in your right foot as your left leg lifts. On an out breath, bring knee to chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. Breath in, raise that leg back up. 2 more. Out breath, knee to chest, shoulders, heel of the hands. Lift back up. In breath. Squeeze the knee back in. Out breath. Lift back up. In breath. Bend the knee and stack up with the hips. Then realign the hips. Bring the left knee to the heel of the left hand and plant the shin. Untuck the back toes, walk the toes back. Take a hold of your left foot and bring that left foot underneath the body. Bring your right hand back to the floor. Rock your right hip in and out towards that left heel. And then allow, after a couple of rocks, to keep that right heel towards, that left heel towards that right hip. Then come down either onto your forearms or stay up on the hands if you wish. Or bring the hands underneath the head and relax that head onto those hands. Or reach those hands further forward and let that chest settle over that left shin. And that right hip squeezing towards that left heel by squeezing the right bum cheek. Think about your tight spots. Breathe into those spaces with your awareness. Using long breaths in, long breaths out to find that range of movement. Allowing those muscles to relax as you breathe out. Taking another couple of breaths here. Then if you're down on your forearms, come back up onto the hands. Plant the hands firmly, tuck the back toes under, lift the back knees, step the left foot back to meet the right, and then lift up the hips. And squeeze the heels back to downward facing dog. Let's take you through a vinyasa, coming forward to plank on the inhale and lowering, exhale. Lift up with the chest on the inhale and find your way back to down dog on your exhale. Taking a couple of easy breaths in this space, chest pushing back, heels squeezing back. Relaxing through the neck, maybe gazing up those legs as far as you can. Then start to bring the knees back to the mat. Knees together, feet together, seat towards the feet. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Breath in, raise both hands up. Breath out, left hand comes down. Reach over to the left with the right hand. Come back to centre. Right hand down, left hand reaches up and over to the right. Back to centre and release both hands down towards the mat, palms facing forward. On an in-breath, push into the shins, raise the hands up to the ceiling. On an out-breath, reach the hands far forward, hips far back, and then scoop the body through by bending the elbows, drop the hips as you lift the chest. Release the chest back down, toes tuck, chest comes back towards the thighs. Then push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze those heels back. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. Your weight stays in your left foot as your right leg lifts. On an out breath, bring the knee to the chest and the shoulders over the heel of the hands. In breath, raise back up. 2 more times. Knee to chest. In breath, raise back up. Last one. knee to chest. Make sure the shoulders are over the heel of the hands. In breath, raise back up, bend the knee and stack up with the hips. Then realign the hips. This time bring your right foot to the outside of the right hand and keep those hips low. Without letting that right knee drop out too much to the side, start to bend the elbows and sink the chest to the inner right thigh. We're holding strength through the arms and the shoulders to drop that chest a little lower. Try and keep that back leg nice and straight, pushing that left heel back and engaging the upper left thigh to straighten the left knee. Maybe sink a little lower, but don't plant the elbows. We're just in a hovering space. One more breath here. And then pushing back into the hands and lifting the chest back up. Stepping your left foot to the outside of the left hand. Turn the toes off, heels off, then drop heels in, and then drop the hips down towards those heels. Elbows to inside of the knees. Try and grow nice and tall through the spine. Tuck the tailbone down and under and lift the belly up towards that rib cage. Keep pushing the knees out with the elbows. Maybe resist and push back to activate those inner thighs. One more breath here. And then planting the hands down on the mat, starting to lift up with the hips. And as the hips raise high, heel toe the feet back into the centre. And bring them underneath the hips. Take a breath in, come up to a half lift, hands to shins, tabletop back. Breath out, fold back over those thighs and let the head hang. Then on a next in-breath, raise the hands up towards the ceiling, bringing your palms together at the top. On an out-breath, bring the hands to the chest. Weight stays in your right foot as your left leg lifts up towards your hip height position. Bring the hands then down by the sides of the body, sides of the thighs. On an out breath, send the torso forward and the left leg back to hip height. In breath, lift back up towards knee to chest. Out breath, forward and send that left leg back, keeping it as straight as you can. In breath, lift back up. One more time. Out breath, send that left leg back. Both hips stay nice and level. Right leg straight, left leg straight. In breath and lift back up. Bring the hands back together at the chest. Release the left foot back to the mat. Heel toe the feet back out to the sides. Toes off, heels on. On an out breath, bend the knees and bring the hands in towards those knees. Elbows pushing the knees out. Finding your Malasana squat for another breath. And then planting the hands down on the mat, lifting the hips slightly. Step your left foot back, your right foot back to find plank position. Hold plank for a breath. And then lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Find downward facing dog. Let's take a vinyasa, forward to plank inhale. Release to a hover or all the way to the mat. Lift up with the chest. And then find your way back to down dog. Maybe that's chest back to thighs. Remember, you can progress or regress your vinyasa. Lift the hips at the end and squeeze the heels back. Coming down onto the knees, knees together, feet together, seat towards the feet, shoulders to stack over the hips and roll the shoulders back. Breath in, raise the hands up to the ceiling, palms together. Out breath, left hand down, reach over to the left with the right hand. Breath in, back to centre. Breath out, right hand down, lean over to the right with the left hand. Come back to centre. And on an out breath, bring the hands back by the sides of the body, palms facing forward. On an in breath, push into the shins, raise the hands up. On an out breath, sink the hips back, bring the hands forward to the front of the mat. Keep the hips high as you send the chest through. As the chest lifts, drop the hips. Release the chest back down, the toes tuck, the chest comes back towards the thighs. We then push into the hands and feet, we lift up the hips and we squeeze the heels back. Ready to do those poses on our left side. Weight stays in your right foot as your left leg lifts. Bring the knee in towards the chest and the shoulders over the heel of the hands. Breath in, raise that leg back up. Breath out, knee back to the chest. One more time, raise that left leg back up. And knee to the chest. Raise the left leg back up. Bend the knee and stack up with the hips. Realign the hips, bring the left foot to the outside of the left hand. Sink the hips nice and low. Back leg straight, and then start to bend into the elbows and drop the chest to that inner thigh. Try and keep a long line through the torso up to the crown of the head. Take the pressure through the shoulders and the arms to hold yourself in that slightly lower space. Keep pushing that left knee in towards your left shoulder, your right heel back and your right thigh engaged to straighten the right knee. And then push into the hands, straighten the arms back out. Step your right foot to the outside of the right hand. Turn the heels in, toes off, bring the hips low and bring the hands together at the chest. Push the elbows into the knees, resist and push back. Try and grow up through the crown of the head. Sink the tailbone down and under like you're hooking something with that tailbone. One more breath in this space, noticing how your hips feel left side compared to right. Then bring the hands down to the mat, lift the hips up towards the ceiling as the hips come high. Heel toe those feet back into the centre, underneath the hips. Take a breath in, come to a half lift, hands to shins, tabletop back. On an out breath, fold back over those thighs and let the head hang. On an in breath, raise the hands up towards the ceiling, bringing the palms together at the top. On an out breath, bring the hands to the hands to the chest. Weight this time comes into your left foot as you raise the right knee up to hip height. Find your focus here first. Then bring the hands down by the sides of the body, palms facing in. On an out breath, send that right leg back, torso forward, long line from heel to head. In breath, lift back up. We have 2 more of those. Out breath, send the right heel back. Torso in line with the hips. In breath, back up. Last one, send that right heel back. And in breath, lift back up. Hold that space for a breath. Then plant that right foot back down, hands back together at the chest. Heel toe the feet out to the edges, toes off, heels on. On an out breath, bend into the knees and bring the elbows to the inside of the knees. Push into the knees, resist and push back. Tall through the spine, tucked through the tailbone, lift of the lower belly. And then planting the hands down onto the mat and stepping your right foot back, your left foot back, find plank for a breath. And then lift up the hips and squeeze the heels back to find your downward facing dog space. Let's take ourselves a vinyasa, coming forward to plank on the inhale, lowering your variation towards the floor or hover. Lift up with the chest on the inhale and then send yourself back to down dog. Lifting up at the hips, squeezing of those heels back. When you're in down dog, take a nice long deep breath in and a long sigh out through the mouth. Coming down onto the knees together, feet together, seat towards the feet, shoulders stacked over the hips. On a breath in, raise the hands to the ceiling, palms together at the top. On an out breath, left hand comes down, reach up and over with the right hand. Breath in comes back to centre. Breath out, right hand down, reach up and over with the left hand. Come back to centre. Bring both hands then down towards the floor, palms facing forward. On an in breath, push into the shins, raise the hands up. On an out breath, send the hips back, bring the hands forward. And then scoot the body through, keeping the hips high. And as you lift the chest, drop the hips. Release the chest back down. Let the toes tuck under. Bring the chest back towards those thighs. And then push into your hands and feet. Lift up with the hips. Squeeze the heels back. Find your downward facing dog. Weight stays in your left foot as your right leg lifts. Bring that knee to the chest. Shoulders over the heel of the hands. Raise that leg back up in breath. Out breath, knee to chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. In breath, lift. Last one, elbow towards the chest. Sorry, knee towards the chest. Lift that leg back up, bend the knees, stack up with the hips. Then realign the hips, bring that right knee to the left elbow, thread the right foot, plant the outside edge on the outside of the left side mat. Drop your left heel to the floor and reach your left hand up to find fallen triangle. Try and stack your left shoulder on top of the right, maybe gaze up towards that left hand. Push those hips up a little higher if you can. Holding this space for another couple of breaths. Firm into that right hand, tall through the left hand. Push energetically into both feet. And then start to bring the bum back to the mat. Bring your right heel in towards the groin. Your left hand onto your left leg. Reach the right hand up, turn the chest towards the right knee. Then lean up and over to that left leg, reaching as far over as you can, stretching that right side waist. Breathe long breaths into this space. Lengthen all that right side body. Try not to let the right shoulder drop. Keep yourself turning out to the side. Your left elbow is maybe supporting you on that left leg or onto the inside of that left leg to the mat. Next breath in, lift back up. Bring your right hand behind you. Reach your left hand up and back. Push into the left heel. Plant the left foot. Sending your left hand back towards the front of the mat. Then bringing your chest to turn to the mat. Plant the hand. Come onto the toes of the back foot. And step your right foot back to plank. Holding plank for a breath. Good strong line from the crown to the heels. Then lifting the hips up, squeezing the heels back to find down dog. And then flow yourself through a vinyasa, coming forward to plank on the inhale, lowering your variation, exhale. Lift the chest, inhale. And then take it back to down dog. On your exhale, squeezing those heels back. So I am going to turn myself around to the other way, but you stay facing the way you are now if you've got the space on the right side. Coming down onto the knees, seat towards the feet, shoulders stacked over those hips. Hands down by the sides of the body. Breath in, raise the hands up to the ceiling. On an out breath, bring your right hand down, lean up and over to the right with the left hand. Breath in, back to centre. Breath out, left hand down, reach up and over to the left with the right hand. Come back to centre. Release both hands down towards the mat. Turn the palms forward. On an in-breath, push into the shins. Raise the hands and hips up. On an out-breath, send the hands forward, hips back. Keep the hips high as you scoop the body through, and as the chest lift, drop the hips. Release the chest back towards the floor. The toes tuck. Chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze the heels back to find our downward facing dog. Ready to take those poses on your left leg. Breath in, your left leg lifts. Breath out, bring knee to chest. Breath in, raise that leg. Breath out, knee to chest. Shoulders over heel of the hands. Breath in, raise that leg up. One more, knee to chest. Lift back up. This time, left knee towards right elbow. Thread the left foot through. Drop the outside edge of the foot to the outside of the mat. Drop the right heel to the floor. Weight stays in your left hand as you reach your right hand up. Maybe gazing up towards that right thumb. And then try and lift those hips up a little higher. Everything stacking. Right hand over right shoulder, over left shoulder, over left hand. One more breath in this space. And then lower the bum to the mat. Bring your left foot in towards the groin. Right hand onto right leg, toes of the right foot back to the shin, turn the chest to that left knee, reach the left hand up, then lean up and over towards that right leg, stretching down that left side body. Using that elbow on the right to support you either on the knee or bring that elbow to the floor, depending on where you can reach. Maybe the hand is taking a hold of the toes of that right foot. Whatever variation feels good for you. Long left side body, feeling into that lower left back. Maybe feeling into the hamstring of that right leg as that right leg straight. An external rotation of that left hip. On an in-breath, lift the torso up, bring your left hand behind, reach up and back with your right hand, plant the right foot and stretch that hip flexor on that right leg. Then turning the chest towards the mat, plant the hands, come onto the toes of the back foot, step your left foot back, lift the hips and squeeze the heels back. Let's take a flow vinyasa, coming forward to plank on the inhale and lowering on your exhale. Lift the chest on the inhale and find your way back to down dog on your exhale. Coming down onto the knees, feet together, knees together, hips to heels, shoulders over hips. On a breath in, raise the hands up towards the ceiling, palms together at the top. On an out breath, right hand comes down, lean over to the right with the left hand. Breath in comes back to centre. Breath out, left hand comes down, lean over to the left with the right hand. Come back to centre. Release both hands down towards the floor. Breath in, push into the shins, raise the hands back up. On an out breath, lean forward with the hands, back with the hips, scoot the body through, keep the hips high. Drop the hips, then lift the chest. Release the chest back down, toes to kunda, chest comes back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze the heels back. Last round of poses on both right and left side. Weight stays in your left foot, your right leg lifts. Bring that knee towards the chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. Raise that right leg back up. 2 more times, knee to chest. In breath, lift back up. Out breath, knee to chest. In breath, lift back up. This time bend the knees, stack up with the hips. Realign the hips and bring your right foot through in between the hands. Walk the hands around to the left, toes in front of the heels, hands into centre of the feet. Take a breath in here, take a breath out and fold towards those thighs, walking the hands a little closer in between those legs. Use the breath. Inhale creates the length. Outhale, out breath creates that abdominal contraction. Next breath in, come up to a half lift. Left hand goes into the centre, right hand to lower back. Turn the chest to the right. Reach the right hand maybe up to the ceiling, gaze up to that thumb. Then bring that right hand down to where the left hand is. Left hand to lower back. Turn the chest to the left. Then maybe reach that left hand up. Bring that left hand back down towards the mat. Let the body fold in between the legs. Next breath into half lift. Walk the hands back around towards that right foot. Toes of the back foot, plant the hands and step your right foot back to meet your left. Then lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back, find downward facing dog. Then take yourself a vinyasa, coming forward to plank inhale and lowering exhale. Lift the chest on the inhale and send yourself back to down dog On your exhale. Coming down onto the knees, feet together, knees together, seat towards the feet, shoulders to sack over the hips. Raise the hands up. Bring right hand down, lean over to the right with the left hand. Reach both hands back up. Left hand down, reach over to the left with the right hand. Left hand reaches up. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body. On an in-breath, push into the shins, raise the hands, raise the hips. Out-breath, fold. Scoot the body through, hips high, then drop the hips and chest high. Release the chest back, toes tuck, chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze those heels back. Your weight stays in your your right foot as your left leg lifts. Bring the knee towards the chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. Raise that left leg back up. 2 more of those. Knee to chest, shoulder over heel of the hands. Raise that leg up. 1 more. Knee to chest, shoulders over heel of the hands. Raise that leg up. Then bend the knee and stack the hips. Realign the hips. Bring the left foot through. Walk the hands around to the right. Toes in front of the heels. Allow the body to fold over the thighs and walk the hands back a little closer towards that centre space. Take a long breath in here and a long breath out to fold a little deeper. Breath in to a half lift. Left hand in centre, right hand lower back. Turn the chest and raise that right hand up. Maybe gaze up towards that right thumb. Then bring that right hand down to the floor. Place it where the left hand is, the left hand to lower back. Turn the chest and reach the left hand up. Then bring the left hand back to the mat. Fold back over the thighs and let the head hang. Breath in comes up to a half lift. Walk the hands back towards that left foot. Turn the toes of the left foot. Come on to the toes of the right foot. Step your left foot back. Hold plank for a breath. Then lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Taking yourself through a vinyasa, forward to plank on the inhale and lowering on the exhale. Lift the chest on the inhale. Back to down dog on your exhale. Squeeze the heels firmly back. Push firm into those hands. Come down onto the knees. Knees together, feet together, seat towards the feet. Last earth salutation. Raise your left hand up, lean over to the right with the left hand. Come back to centre, both hands meet at the top. Left hand down, lean over to the left with the right hand. Come back to centre and release both hands down by the sides of the body. Push into the shins, raise the hands, raise the hips. Reach forward with the hands, back with the hips. Scoop the body through, hips stay high, then lift the chest and drop the hips. Release the chest back down, the toes tuck under, the chest comes back towards the thighs. We push into the hands and feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze the heels back. Find downward facing dog. Step your right foot to the outside of the right hand. Step your left foot to the outside of the left hand, heels on, toes off. Sink the hips, elbows to inside of the knees, palms together at the chest. Tuck your tailbone to hook, lift your lower belly up. Close the eyes and take a moment in Malasana squat just to notice your hips, notice your thighs, your lower back. Then sending your left hand down towards the toes of the left foot. Squeeze the outside of the right hip to keep that right knee open. And then send your right hand up and out to the side and twist the torso to the right. Turning that chest as much as you can to the right side. but try not to let that right knee drop in. Then bring your right hand down towards the right toes. Squeeze the outside of the left hip as you lift and open the chest to the left. Keep the hips tucked under, left knee pulled out. Then bring that left hand back down. Bring the hands together at the chest, lift up with the torso. Hold again here for another couple of breaths. Bring the hands to the floor, lift the hips up, heel toe the feet back into the centre. Allow the body to fold over the thighs, let the head go. Then take a bend into the knees, come on to the toes, let the heels stack over the toes. And when you've found that space, maybe you come up with the hands and find your balance here. Shoulders stacking over the hips, ribcage drawing back. If you want to close the eyes to test the balance, feel free. It does work your balance a little harder. One more breath here. Then reach forward with the hands, back with the hips, and let your bum come to the mat, heels to the front. Hands underneath those creases of the knees. Lift up with the right foot, the left foot. Release both hands. Straighten one leg, straighten the other. Lift your right hand up, your left hand up. Hold that point, point the toes. Bring the feet, knees together. One more breath in boat pose. And then release the toes to the mat, flatten the feet, arms come to shoulder height. And then we slowly let our body curl down the mat, one vertebra at a time. Keeping those feet planted as you come through that challenging space. Once the shoulders come down to the floor, bring the feet in closer to the bum, knees drop out to the side, soles of the feet together. Just have a little rock of those knees from side to side, just to feel that little bit of TLC in that lower back. And then bring the arms to cactus arms. Bring the knees back together in the centre and windscreen wipe the knees from side to side. Just neutralising that lower back from all its work it's done today, its back bends, its forward folds, its rotations. And then bring those knees back to a centre space. Find your relaxation position. Maybe you bring your hands back down by the sides, palms facing up. Maybe you straighten your legs to the length of the mat. Feet dropping out to the sides, mat width apart. Make sure you're fully comfortable through that body. Maybe you need to lift the hips, tuck the tailbone and give the hips a little rock. Maybe a turn of the head in both directions. Bringing it back to a centre space when you've done so. Close the eyes, relax the jaw, take a long deep breath in. And a long sigh back out through the mouth. Let the body be heavy, shoulders relaxed, upper limbs and lower limbs heavy to the floor. The space between 8 fingers and 2 thumbs and all 10 toes. Just watch your own natural automatic breathing pattern as you consolidate your practice and everything you've just done over the last 40 odd minutes of practice. How do your hips feel, your shoulders feel, your spine? The back chain of muscles of the posterior chain, the front chain of muscles of the anterior chain, your sides, particularly from the lateral flexions we've been doing, stretching the sides of the waist and the intercostal muscles around the ribs. Full awareness of your body laying here on the floor in your room. If you wish to stay in relaxation for longer, pause the video now. If you're coming out with me, wriggle the fingers, the toes, rotate the wrists, rotate the ankles. If you want to find a full body stretch, bring the feet together, point through the toes, send the hands up and over the head, point through the fingers. Flare the ribs, arch the lower back, and then bring the hands back up and over, one knee at a time, in towards your chest. Maybe have a little rock of that body from side to side. Massaging that spine and thanking it for practice. Your choice to roll onto your side if you wish and take a breath there, or take a couple of rock and rolls up and down the spine, up to seated once, back down, up to seated twice, back down, and then this time finding a full seat, crossing the legs, maybe bringing the hands onto the top of the thighs or meeting in a seated position. Take a roll of the shoulders up to the ears, back down to the hips. And on a next breath in, raise the hands to the ceiling, palms together at the top. Bring the hands to the chest and a soft gaze towards the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.